Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Methanol Madness, brought to us by Daltons Landscape Supplies. Of course, we all took a break last week, but plenty of racing to review from our last meeting at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge, Ruapuna Speedway. AJ, welcome to the show again, mate. Some pretty good racing at the track, and it looks like we have a nominee for Race of the Season.
Yeah, my nomination for Race of the Season was that midget car battle between Mitch Hill and Nathan Wilkie. Yeah, what a ripper of a race. One down low, one up high, and they just gave it everything, lead changing a number of times. It was a very good race meeting.
Yeah, great performance by those two drivers, and certainly put on a great show for the big crowd that attended our last race meeting. Louise Smith, good to see you again, and I'm sure you've had a nice wee break. There was some great racing at the track that last meeting.
Yeah, a real highlight was having some of those North Island drivers coming down and getting a few laps in before Speed Week. It was really cool to see them make an appearance, and I know that the crowd loved it too, and it certainly made for a good show.
Yes, of course, Speed Week is only a few weeks away, and as you've already said, those North Islanders making their way down, getting a little look at the track. Remember, $100,000 up for grabs with Speed Week on April 5th, 6th, 11th and 13th. Well, to get the show started, we'll look at our crash of the week, brought to us by Elite Rear Roofing, Mike Bell and his professional roofers. And not so much a crash of the week this week, AJ, but a recovery of the week by Connor Rangi. We're looking at that car pulling wheelies down the front straight after a yellow flag, and an unbelievable last lap dash where he managed to win the race.
Yeah, Connor Rangi got a big handful of horsepower, didn't he, and had to tame the car, bring it down, and at the same time sort of fight off a pretty stoic challenge from Jamie Duff. You see the car, boy, it just got the drive down, and there it goes, front end up, then it comes down again. A big wheelie, and Jamie Duff driving the car, usually pedalled by his brother Stephen, just couldn't quite grab the momentum. Great effort by Connor Rangi.
Yeah, plenty of drive on that track, and it's probably worthy of saying that was a very well prepared track by Chris and his team. And we get one last look of Connor pulling wheelies down the straight. 900 horsepower, it's all got to go somewhere, and in this case it was up in the air. Time to move on to the Herrick Creek review of our last race meeting, and the Quarter Midgets got us started there, Louise. Some pretty good racing.
Yeah, another really large field of quarter midgets, as we've seen all season, which was really good. I think the highlight of the night for a lot of people was that Heat 2 race there between Jack Brownlees and Jackson Clark, where they had a really strong battle for a couple of laps, and Clark was actually able to hold on to pick up that Heat win, which was really cool for him and the team. The feature was won by Jack Brownlees, picking up another one yet again at Ruapuna, which was also, really good effort for him and the team, and they really rebounded after that Heat there and showed real speed in that feature. Second went to Brooke Clark, who drove from 8th, and then third was Jackson Clark, who's been having a really consistent year so far. But it was also the best pairs event for the quarter midgets, which is a favourite for a lot of the drivers. So it was Isabel Harris, who's a rookie to the class this season, and Brodie Morris picking up the win there. Second place went to Jackson Clark and Kyla Hinton, who's another rookie, and third place was Jack Reed and Miller Johnson. And Miller also picked up his best feature result on that night as well, with a 5th place finish. So very happy teams all round in the quarter midget camp.
Yeah, it's great stuff, isn't it, to watch these youngsters compete in the quarter midgets. And good stuff, Miller Johnson, great to see you, mate. We've seen you putting around that track for a couple of seasons, and things really seem to have clicked for you right now. That best pairs competition is great for the youngsters, isn't it, AJ? We see plenty of new drivers up on the podium.
Yeah, mix and match, and that's what it's all about. Think of the confidence boosters that some of these kids get out of it, because, even though the quarter midget class, I believe, is really, really competitive, ultimately, the number of race winners over the season, it's sort of shared between 3, 4, 5 different drivers. But for some of these other kids, just to get a moment in the sunshine, how darn good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the next class we'll look at is the modified sprints, and it's a big welcome to Josh Henderson to the show. You're the commentator on the night, Josh. How did the modified sprints go?
Yeah, it was a good night of racing, of course, and heats 1 and 2 had the grids all mixed up, so we really got a taster of the action we would see in the feature. And of course, Craig Cox returned to his usual form in the 5C car and won heat number 1. And heat number 2 was taken out by Brett Booth, actually. So Booth, you're returning to some really good form lately in his car. And really on the night, the 4 top runners were Brett Booth, Harry McIntyre, Craig Cox and Gus Dawson. And they were all really competitive towards the end of the feature. Gus and Craig notably running all the way up from the mid-pack to fight for the win towards the end of it. So, yeah, really good four-way battle for the win of the modified sprints class.
Yeah, they were really enjoying that well-prepared track as well, and some of those lap times by Coxey were getting very close to the actual track record. Just a quick note for anyone that's interested in modified sprints, Craig Cox's 5C car is up for sale now, so there's a big move going on for Coxey, and if you're interested in getting a top-class quality modified sprint, go and see Dennis and Craig in the pits. Good racing, AJ. Gus Dawson's still so impressive, isn't he?
Yeah, what a talent, first season, and he really does get in there. What I'm so looking forward to in our next meeting is this Modified Sprint Clay Cup, because it is going to be an absolute ripper, and no one is going into this as a red hot favourite.
Yeah, certainly 4 or 5 real chances there. Liam Astle being the ex-Clay Cup champion, and really interested to see how Gus Dawson goes. We know that he's a real gas man, doesn't take his foot off the accelerator, and he's brave as heck, and we'll see how that all plays out. Well, the next class we'll look at is the TQs, and Louise, some pretty good racing there as well.
Yeah, once again, really strong competition throughout the TQ field. There's numerous drivers now that really have a shot at that top 5 at any given stage. So it was Ricky Brett actually returning to victory lane there with a feature win, which was really cool. He had it pretty down from the beginning. He just went at the green, and there was not really anyone able to catch him. That car showed immense speed, and they've struggled with the handling a bit this season, but now they've got that all under control. There doesn't seem to be a lot in Ricky's way. Second went to Scott Bailey, who we've seen be a force to be reckoned with all season, with some feature wins as well. And third was Ethan Smith, who was actually sitting in that second spot for a while there too, before eventually succumbing to the battle with Scott Bailey. But it was best pairs for the TQs as well, which again, another favourite event for the guys. They love kind of getting paired up and kind of playing out their strategy, and you basically have to finish every single race, so it's really important for these pairs. But Ricky backed up his feature win, picking up the first place in the best pairs with Logan Scammell. Second place went to Scott Bailey and Mark Morris paired together, and third place went to Will Pilcher, who travelled over from Greymouth, who was paired with Blake Finlay, who picked up his first podium, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some really good racing there, and some of those names you just mentioned, Will Pilcher really put a great performance on. Logan Scammell, how good is that guy getting in this last season? He bought that nice car off Grace Roxburgh, and he's performing beautifully. Ethan Smith, your brother, Louise, that car is so fast in the first couple of laps. I think your brother just never lets his foot off the accelerator, and he really gathers some momentum. Doesn't quite nail it towards the end of the races there, where the speed of the other cars seem to catch up. But Ricky Brett, isn't it a throwback to the Ricky Brett and Ryan Stone days when those guys were going hammer and tongs?
Absolutely, and the thing about Ricky Brett, there's nothing false about the guy. He just gets out there and he does the business, goes away, we don't see him for, quite a few race meetings, comes back, and invariably he's right at the pointy end of the field. A brilliant driver.
Yeah, and big shout out to Lockie Brett, Ricky's son. He did all the spanner work on that car, and there's a rumour that Lockie may be driving a TQ in the future, so certainly that will be something to look out for. Well, the next class we'll look at is the midgets, and AJ, we alluded to it before, it was almost nominees for Race of the Season, and that was Mitch Hill and Nathan Wilkie. That was a real good race.
It was a really good race, but the thing, we often say it about midget cars, I think the Speedway public in Canterbury underestimate how good midget car racing is, or perhaps they don't even appreciate how good it is, because we all get caught out with the V8s and so on, but the midget car racing consistently dishes up such competitive stuff, and there's battles right across the field. And we had Travis Buckley coming down from the North Island, and he set a pretty good pace. They just wanted to return because they love coming to Ruapuna, and the result, you had Glenn Jury having a pretty solid run, and Glenn is just one of those guys that when he's hot, he is red hot, and the midget cars just turned it on.
Yeah, it's been a spectacular class for a long, long time, and even though we don't get great numbers, if you're into your midget car racing, it's very, very exciting to watch. AJ just said Glenn Jury took out that first heat, and that was pretty good to watch. He really dominated that race. Second race, I should say, which we've talked about, is the Mitch Hill and Nathan Wilkie race, an absolute stunner. And the feature race, of course, it was Jack Lowe getting put further back in the field and managing to get that car up to win the feature race. Another stunning drive by Jack Lowe. Liam McCoubrey took out second, and Jay Chadwick, a good result for him, finally getting up on the podium. Well, the next class we'll look at is the sprint cars, and AJ, it was the South Island Sprint Car Championship, and pretty good racing there as well.
Yeah, and what an all-star cast we had. We had from the North Island, we had Jamie Larson, we had Stephen Taylor, we had Max Guilford coming down, and Joel Myers Jr. hanging around for another week to try and take some silverware back across the Pacific to the States. And then we had the best of the best in the South Island, but like Matthew Levisage. Pity that they couldn't have been there, but It was very competitive.
Well, I tell you what, I was impressed with so many drivers. Of course, Stephen Taylor, you couldn't take it away from him. He took out the South Island Championship, and it was a real stunning drive. He got to the lead in the very first lap and just couldn't be pulled in. But I tell you what, Max Guilford was so impressive in that Daniel Anderson second car.
Yep, just got in it and he drove the wheels off it. And there were obviously, as you alluded to during the commentary, there was no team orders because Max and Joel Myers Jr. had a ripper of a duel going on. And, we know how good Max Guilford is, but I think the appreciation of him will have gone up another step because, he got into a pretty good car. I'll go so far as to say maybe not as good as what Max normally races, but he got into a good car and, man, he drove it like it was just the best set of wheels he'd ever had under him.
Yeah, so a fantastic night of racing all over the classes on our last meetings last Saturday. And Connor Rangi, how could we forget that? We just seen him in the recovery of the week with that big wheel stand. He managed to pull off another big highlight. One of the highlights for me was listening into some of the race footage and hearing how much applause is going around for our drivers these days, AJ. There is a real appreciation for good car racing.
There is, and I think a big part of that is being built through those victory lane interviews and so on. And, the good old days of someone getting out of a car, putting their hands on their hips and saying, oh, well, that was a good race, and then being shaken on the hand and walking away or over. We're getting a real expression from them. And I absolutely love Stephen Taylor's reception to the crowd when he won the South Island Sprint Car Championship. It was sort of like, I am the greatest. And he was very good on the night. Let's not underestimate what Stephen Taylor is going to bring to the Speed Week because he is an absolute ripper of a driver. And, the crowd, they're starting to pick out the heroes, they're starting to pick out the villains. Occasionally there's a little bit of booing going on. It's theatre, it's life. Let's just suck it up and enjoy it.
Well, folks, that is the Herrick Creek review of the night. Well, time now to take a short break, and after the break, we'll look at our share and win winners. Get ready for the ultimate showdown at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway this Saturday, March 16th. It's the Daltons Sprint Car Summer Slam and the Avon Insurance Modified Sprint Clay Cup. Both promise to be high-octane racing action starting at 6 p.m. Arrive early at 4:30 for the pre-race festivities, family giveaways and surprises. Don't miss out on the action-packed event this Saturday night at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway.
This ain't your fancy store-bought stuff. This is Herrick Creek Moonshine, handcrafted right here in New Zealand. Made with real corn by real people and a whole lot of heart. It's smooth, it's strong, it's real. Experience New Zealand in a jar with Herrick Creek Moonshine.
Welcome to Wellington's largest caravan and RV shop. CB Caravans and RV Centre look after repairs and maintenance, and they are leak specialists. CB Caravans and RV Centre import UK caravans. Need to sell? They can help. CB Caravans and RV Centre, your caravan solution. Catch up with Will and Wendy today. And always great to have Wendy and Will as part of the Methanol Madness team with CB Caravans and RV Centre. Well, time to move on to our share and win winners. Louise, what's been happening this week?
Yeah, another great uptake on our share and win competition. We've got our 10 family passes up for grabs, and this week's winners are Mike Bensley, Wendy Chatterton, Liz Hamilton, Graham Haar, Dawn Blythe, Debbie Harrington, Tammy Hunn, Jack Daly, Ashley Robertson, and Julie Edwards. So those 10 have won our family pass giveaways, and on our Facebook page will also be the announcement of the winners of the tickets to the VIP lounge this weekend as well. So you'll have to keep an eye on our Facebook page for those. But congratulations to our 10 winners.
Time to move on to Dirt Track News, brought to us by CB Caravans and RV Centre, and we'll take a quick look at Bay Park. Louise, the midgets and sprint cars were racing.
Yeah, it was the last midget show at Bay Park for a lot of the guys, so there was plenty that headed on down there to compete in that weekend, but it was Brad Mosen picking up another feature win. Second went to Aaron Hodgson, who performed really well in one of those heat races, and third place was Brock Maskovich. The sprint cars was won by Dean Brindle, second went to Rodney Wood, and third went to Greg Pickerel. So a lot of great racing all around, and I know that a lot of guys really enjoy running at Bay Park.
Yeah, Aaron Hodgson is a real highlights package, isn't he, when he was racing that 35A car around the track, and certainly a good result for him. He's certainly fast and wild at the same time, but managed to put it on the podium. Well, the next item we'll look at is the Australian Midget Car Championship, and Michael Pickens travelled all the way over to Perth at the Perth Motorplex. What were the results like there, Louise?
Yeah, it was a really good weekend of racing over at Perth. They're really well known for putting on a great show with the sprint cars, and they proved that they can do it for the midgets as well. But it was a big weekend full of a lot of upsets for a lot of people. There was a lot of heartbreak, especially at the start of that feature there. American Logan Seavey was supposed to start on the pole, but was unable to start the feature, actually couldn't get the thing going due to some electrical faults going on there, and was just a big disappointment for him and the team, as a lot of people had a lot of money bargained on Logan winning that. Actually, there was not a lot of people that wouldn't have chosen him going into that weekend, but it was the USA team that really shone. There was quite a few drivers that headed over to Perth, and it was a 1-2 finish for Dyson Motorsports with Justin Grant picking up the win. Second went to Jade Avedissian, which was a really cool result for her, and Justin battled it out for a while there, but ultimately he had a little bit more car speed and was able to kind of drive around there really well and get the upper hand on Jade there. And third place, of course, went to Michael Pickens. He and Caden Brown were actually the only past Australian champions in the field, so it was really cool to see Michael get on the podium there. And a great result all around for New Zealand as well, with the King Chassis 1-2 finish, obviously a New Zealand-made chassis. So really cool result for New Zealanders, and a little bit of upset for Australia with an all-international podium.
Yeah, midget car racing really attracting all those internationals now, and we've seen Justin Grant down here, Jade Avedissian, certainly one of the best female midget car drivers you'll ever come across, and as you've already said, Michael Pickens taking out third. Well, plenty of racing happening at Ruapuna Speedway this weekend, but we've also got 3 drivers travelling north, Louise.
Yeah, it's the last meeting of the season happening at Western Springs, and they're certainly going out with a bang, hosting the Sprint Car 50 Lap Classic as well as the New Zealand Midget Grand Prix. So we've got Connor Rangi, Jamie Duff and Matthew Levisage all up there competing for the South Island, and Connor will be racing in the Daltons number 11 car, so that'll be really exciting to see how that goes for him. Jamie, of course, returning to his number 19, and Matthew Levisage returning to the 78C as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. 50 laps is a very long time. They've got a pit stop at 25 for 5 minutes to make some changes, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of strategy comes into play there, but I think it'll make out for a very exciting race. And of course the midgets as well, Michael Pickens, defending Grand Prix winner from Ruapuna last year, and Brad Mosen hot on form as well, so I think it'll be a really good night for Western Springs, and I hope that the crowd shows up to support the Speedway as well.
Yeah, it's been great news for Western Springs announcing that they will actually be racing next year, and certainly let's hope that crowd can fill the stadium once again. AJ, you really like that 50-lap format, don't you? There's a lot of variation in race formats this year, and clubs are prepared to take chances.
Yeah, I like it simply because it's different. Yep. And, that's the thing. Some classes have done, let's go for solos. 4-lap races since 1929. They still do 4-lap races. Variety is the spice of life. Let's give the people something different that they can see. And that's why, some varieties in formats, sometimes mixing drivers up with the best pairs, like handicap starts, highest points from the back, things like that. They do spice it up. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Is it a precedent? I don't know. 50 laps on Western Springs is going to be very, very tough, particularly on tyres.
Yeah, well, certainly always looking out for these new formats, and that reminds me that Ruapuna's got another format they're going to try. Of course, it's the King of the South Midget Eliminator, and that's one of the events happening through Speed Week. We'll give you more information closer to that event, but it's something like the Last Man Standing and the Stoops Pursuit. So if you know what those terms mean, we'll explain a bit more in our our upcoming shows. Well, the next item we'll look at is Speed Week coming to Ruapuna Speedway on the 5th of April, and of course that's 4 days of racing over 8 days and $100,000 up for grabs. AJ, just remind us, how do we kick off this meeting?
Yeah, the fifth, we've got the BT for Mates Midgets, which is always a very good event and well supported. In fact, it's the entry list has been capped at 30, so 30 midget cars going to be there for that. So that's the fifth, and it's also night one of the New Zealand Sprint Car Grand Prix. Night two, we've got the New Zealand Sprint Car Grand Prix finale. So, that there is also going to have quite a lineup. TQ's part of the BT for Mates, that's been capped at 30, it's full. So, you put on the show, you put up the money, and the drivers are responding.
We meant to tell you fireworks on Saturday night, and there's another session of fireworks on the 13th, which is the conclusion of Speed Week. But we do have a race meeting on the 11th, and that will be the rumble for the V6 wingless sprints.
Yeah, night one, the Ruapuna Rumble, plus a Salute for Goodies sprint cars. And, we talk about numbers. The wingless cars capped at 30, and she's full as a boot.
Yeah, Josh, you've got some info on the V6 wingless sprints. Who are some of the North Islanders coming down for that rumble?
Yeah, we've got really two prominent North Islanders coming down for the V6 wingless sprint rumble. Of course, the reigning rumble winner in Luke McClymont, and of course the North Island midget champion, and of course Laurie Peterson coming down from Auckland. So those really are the two notables that are coming down to race the rumble.
Yeah, good stuff, and we're very used to Luke McClymont coming down. In fact, I think he won the V6 wingless sprint feature race at Bay Park just this recent weekend. And of course, our final night of Speed Week will of course be the Gold Cup, and this is brought to us by R&R Duff. AJ.
Yeah, it's sort of like an in memory naming, Ron and Rita Duff, the matriarch and patriarch of the Duff family. But Ron and Rita back in the day were very responsible for raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for Speedway racing in Canterbury. They ran Housey when Housey was as popular as a tax refund, and they got a lot of finance into not only Ruapuna Speedway but also the Christchurch TQ Club. A couple of wonderful people they were. And what a way to salute them, and remember a couple of people that just did not want one bit of the limelight. They just went and did the business, and look at the family that they've created the path into Speedway for. Steve, Jamie, Steve Jr. It'll be a big occasion.
Yes, Ron and Rita Duff, certainly big names in the Speedway scene down here in Christchurch, as is Steve Duff, their son, and the two boys, Steve Duff Jr. and Jamie. Well, folks, that will conclude Speed Week. Of course, 4 nights of racing at the track. You can actually get some discounted tickets if you want to participate in all 4 nights. It's certainly going to be a very big highlight and a great way to finish the season. Well, folks, time to move on to the Herrick Creek preview of the week, and of course racing this Saturday night at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway. AJ, 2 big events, the Daltons Sprint Car Summer Slam and the Avon Insurance Modified Sprint Clay Cup.
Yeah, Sprint Car Summer Slam brought to us by Daltons. Going to be a very interesting ending to this. With the boys up north, that thins the field out. There's also a couple of guys out with the engines. Still looking around 8 or 9 cars, but they're going to be really quality ones. Going into this final round, you've got Jamie Duff leading on points from Conarangi. Both of them are out the door. They're racing up at Western Springs. This does leave things potentially in the hands of Caleb Bourne, who has started picking up some real momentum. And then we've got Jaden Dodge, who's not that far behind in points. So, boy, she's an open book, this one. Yeah,
the sprint cars are really very competitive in that mid-pack, and we watched Caleb Bourne take on Joel Myers Jr. a couple of meetings ago and absolutely did him. So certainly Caleb Bourne's got some pretty current form at the moment. Well, of course, the Modified Sprint Clay Cup is the other feature class that's racing at the track. And Louise, what are your thoughts on this? We've got some pretty good drivers.
Yeah, the Clay Cup is one of the class's favourite. A lot of them kind of treat it like their New Zealand title because they don't have one, which I think is really unique to them. And obviously it's an event that they all kind of count down in the calendar too. But, there's a lot of really fast guys in our modified sprint class. Harry McIntyre, Brett Booth and Craig Cox would be among the favourites to probably take this one out. But I think all eyes on Liam Astle. I think that he's had a lot of speed throughout this whole season. He just kind of hasn't really been able to pull off the results that I'm sure he's looking for with a few more feature wins, but I think that Liam could be a real contender for this weekend.
Yeah, of course, Liam Astle, the defending champion of the Clay Cup, and won it when he was just 18 years old, so clearly he's 19 this year. Let's see if he can defend that. Josh, you're pretty familiar with the modified sprints. What are some of your selections?
Yeah, it's a very difficult field to pick from. They're all so fast and all very talented drivers. And if I had to pick, I'd probably say Harry McIntyre. He's been really finding up there with Craig Cox, Gus Dawson and Brett Booth as of late. He even won a couple of heats and a feature lately. So he's really got a lot of pace under him. Just needs to find the time that he needs to get around Cox and Dawson.
Yeah, for me it's Craig Cox. He is foot to the floor all the way, and they've got that setup working perfectly on that 5C car. And AJ, I just love watching Gus Dawson. He just gives it everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's one of the young guns, and they sort of come into the game and pick up the pace. Some of them not so quickly, but with this kid, he's been shot out of the cannon, hasn't he? Brilliant to watch, and very race savvy as well. He's going to be tough to beat. I may head down the path of backing Gus Dawson, but sentimental favourites. There's two of them, and one's Courtney Jones, and then the other one's Brett Booth. Boothie's put up some really good, solid performances this season.
Yeah, he certainly has in recent weeks, taking out some heat races and performing very well in the feature races. So, folks, if you want to get down and watch some pretty good racing on Saturday night, make sure you get down to the track and watch the Modified Sprint Clay Cup, brought to us by Avon Insurance and the Daltons Sprint Car Summer Slam. Well, folks, that's the end of the show. My thanks to AJ Batt, Louise Smith and Josh Henderson, and until next time, keep your foot up it.